Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. So I'm Apostle Kageni-Oganga. I'm currently a law student. So at least from the point of interpreting this bill, I thank God at least that the Lord asked me to go to law school so that then I'll be able to deal with such matters. It begins to make sense why the Lord asked me to do that. One of the things the Lord told me is that a lot of times the church lacks a lot of awareness, especially with issues to do with laws. And the Lord warned me that as we keep moving, times are going to get very evil, and the Church of Jesus Christ will have to arise to do legislation, but also to deal with evil laws. So what we are looking at in terms of the Reproductive Healthcare Act, that's what they're calling it, Reproductive Healthcare Act, healthcare bill. It's not yet an act, it's a bill, 2019, is just a very aggressive abortion bill. So the first thing I want to discredit is, and tell you the truth, and then you've got to be concerned, is when we are told that it is not an abortion bill, and yet the entire part 5 of it is just on termination of pregnancy. Please note that termination of pregnancy is already covered by the highest law in the land. The highest law in the land is the Constitution. You cannot deal with anything above the Constitution. So if it's already covered in the Constitution, why do we need yet another bill? At the same time, the Healthcare Act, still deals with this kind of things. You may remember a case last year when FIDA and some other people had taken the Ministry of Health, and I think it's the Director of Health Services, to court with regard to dealing with a particular pill that was supposed to be off the shelf. And what had happened is the Director of Health had realized that it was being used now for abortion. It had earlier been approved through some policies. But then when it came to being removed, the mistake that the Director of Health Services made is that when he found out that there are various people who are just using this pill wrongly, then what he did was just got angry and called it off, and the Ministry of Health just called it off. And the thing with having a constitution is that, and especially our kind of constitution, which is really good, is that to be able to get rid of something, you need to follow procedure. Yeah, law is very procedural. That's the thing with law. And a lot of times when you're thinking that there's corruption going on, it's not actually corruption. It's just when you get a smart lawyer who understands procedure and understands various things that need to be dealt with. It's critical that we understand that. So I will do part 1 right now. Then I'll try to do a part 2 because I want to see how short we can keep it, so that then you can be able to circulate it easily and various people can get something to do. Though you do need to know that today is the 16th of August and tomorrow is the 17th of August, and tomorrow is the deadline for submitting public participation memos. They insist that they are memos. The government just tends to be a bit complicated like that, which I find a bit prohibitive. Like, for example, I sent mine on Friday, but then I got to learn that it's got to be a memo. So basically, if you just type into your Google about a memo, you should be able to find a memo format. So you do the from, then you write your official name. Don't write your pseudonym or anything like that. Write your official name. You don't need to put your ID. Even young people can actually participate in this, yeah? And then you put, so from, then you put your names, possibly 2-3 names at least, yeah, that are your official names. And then to the clerk of the Senate, okay, Parliament of Kenya, and then the date. So you put the date of your submission, and then you put the subject. So you're putting Reproductive Health Care Bill 2019, or Reproductive Health Bill 2019. It is good to be safer to put in the right terminology. So what I've done, why are we doing it now? Well, we had tried to do it by by writing messages, so that then would find like something that we can put, so that then you can be able to just pick that up and use it. But it seems people prefer to have a video. So we said, let's just have a video that will then go viral, and we trust the Lord that it will reach as many people as possible. One of the things you can do is, if your parents are in objection to it, you can also log in on their behalf into their emails, and you know, they can tell you what they don't agree with, or you can discuss as a family what you don't agree with, and you all submit something that you're not in agreement with. And here's what I encourage you to do. We are not seeking to have the bill changed. We are seeking to have the bill expunged. To expunge something is to completely remove it and just basically declare it's not there, it's not worth it. This bill has come back so many times in the last just 3 years. It's come back now the 5th time. We were able to get rid of it in April. We actually took a risk and went into town and stood at Parliament with our billboards and everything. And the senators were fantastic. They supported us, and the bill was thrown out. And basically what they did was say, listen, this thing has not really gone through public participation, and it seems that it's a thorny issue. And really, we were waiting for them to go ahead with it without public participation, because if you go through something that affects the public in this manner and do not take it through public participation, then we can run to court, and then whatever has been enacted will actually be repealed, which is called to cancel it. So if it becomes a law, it is cancelled. Remember, a bill is a draft law, okay? So it's currently in Senate. The National Assembly, which is Parliament, is made up of 2 houses, okay? So it's called a bicameral house. So it has the what is it called? The members of Parliament, who, okay, yeah, MPs, and then it also has the senators side. So the senators are the ones who represent the counties, and then we have all these other people. But remember, everybody's a member of Parliament, but we also have the Senate. The Senate is actually a house in itself. It's a smaller house. It cannot really make law. So once they are done, they would have to take it into Parliament, unless they are able to prove that it does not affect the entire nation, which it does, okay? So I want to just give you an overview. So first of all, I have told you that Senator Kihika lied to everybody, saying that it doesn't have anything to do with abortion, but the entire part 5 is about termination of pregnancy. That's the thing you need to be very, very concerned about, probably most concerned about, because one of the terminologies they do is they use the term a person. So in the entire bill, they don't define what a person is. Now, if you don't define what a person is, it means you haven't stated nationality, you haven't stated age, you haven't stated a lot of dynamics. So basically, it's a lawyer will pretend to be foolish or take advantage of the mwananchi by putting in a terminology like a person. And that's a dangerous thing in law when you do not define some things. You will note, and we will get there to the termination of pregnancy, but it talks about terminating pregnancy. And what you will notice in the bill is that it has a lot of focus on something they're calling a pregnancy that's not viable. So that's something very worrying. They're not focusing on saving life. They are focusing a lot on ensuring that the life is terminated. Now, in the Constitution of Kenya, Article 26 and Part A, it clearly talks about abortion is allowed sometimes. But then it talks about when does life begin? Life begins from conception, which is a big deal. And remember, termination of a pregnancy is not the same as abortion. Abortion is killing the unborn child. Termination of pregnancy, which is still not biblical, could be argued from a medical perspective, but you would have to meet your maker later on and explain who made you God. So, you know, under no circumstances should a baby be killed. Under no circumstances. In fact, we have seen that in life, in what is it called? In various people give their testimonies, where people come, arise, mostly it's Catholics. I don't know what's up with us Pentecostals and, you know, people who are not Catholic, but we seem very flexible about abortion, but Catholics are very strict on it. But it has to now grow from being a Catholic battle to being a battle of everybody that fears God, okay? So one of the things that is said is that the life of a mother is in danger, and therefore, to save the life of a mother, a pregnancy is terminated. For example, in the case of an ectopic pregnancy. But we've seen situations where Some Catholics have given their testimony of how they were told that their lives were in danger, and they said, I cannot kill. And they go through the pregnancy. Some are taken to court, by the way, and these are the things you need to be careful about, because it could be forced on you. You could be taken to court with the way things are going to force you to have an abortion. It could get to the place where, like China, we are being controlled on even how many children we can have based on what we are seeing, but we will get to that place. And that's why you need to be very, very careful about this bill. It's a very, very dangerous bill. The other thing you need to note, so these women go to, you know, being told, and it's all one case, several cases. Oh, you know, the pregnancy is not viable, which means you can't carry it, you know, the baby will die and all those things, or cannot survive after being born and all that, or your life is in danger. And the woman says, you know what, my faith doesn't allow me to have an abortion. The person goes ahead, has the baby, and everything is fine. They don't die. They are not killed by the pregnancy. And that's the thing. Sometimes some of the things we can go through, like for example, a woman who's threatened in pregnancy, can even be a case of, you know, an Isaac and Abraham kind of test. Abraham with Isaac being tested. Who said, I mean, God is not a confused God. When he gives you a pregnancy, or when he allows you to conceive, let me put it that way, and he allows you to conceive, he knows all the dynamics of that pregnancy. And God is not a sadist that he puts in you a pregnancy just to endanger your life, okay? So anyway, we will come back to the termination of pregnancy clause, which is part 5. It's actually there. But then let's just go to the top. So it has 7 parts, okay? The bill has 7 parts. It's just about 27 pages. It's called 2019 because that's when they began last year, but they keep bringing it back. So changing it, bringing it back, changing it, bringing it back. They really want us to submit our concerns about the bill so that it can be changed. But I want to tell you, it's a Trojan horse. Just like I said during the service today, it's a Trojan horse. Therefore, we cannot have it in any form, shape, or manner. Let healthcare be handled by the Health Act. Let healthcare be handled by the Health Act. The moment we begin to go reproductive health, as though it's such a complicated thing, as though it's got issues and all that, it's actually a setup. This is where the whole homosexuality thing starts coming in. This is the whole, and by the way, you will see under the surrogacy part, they do talk about parents, and then they define parents as 2 people of opposite gender. But then, please remember, it doesn't talk about gender change. It doesn't talk about, you know, it doesn't also forbid anyone who is single from getting a surrogate. It doesn't, okay? So that also means that we can have somebody who is not married, because we currently do not have same-sex marriages, but then with time just come in. And remember, amending a bill is much easier. Amending an act is much easier and can be very, you know, so you just put in something and then you just come and sneak it in. And then, of course, people will start going to court and saying, oh, we were ruled as not parents and da-da-da-da-da. And yet, you know, if they do want to manage to get in the, whatever, the homosexuality bills in. Saints of God, don't ever fall for the lie that it's not possible. It can never happen in Kenya. Don't ever fall for that lie. Okay? That's one of the lies Satan has used. I want to take you back to coronavirus. Before coronavirus came in February, I gave a warning, and so many people said black people are not getting corona. And I kept posting warnings. Let's pray. Let's arise against it. And people kept saying black people are not getting corona. Really? Really? You know, so it's the lies of Satan, so that then you're caught off guard. That's what Satan does. So it's a Trojan horse. A Trojan horse refers to when the Greeks were unable to fight with Troy, and they had tried for 10 years to overcome Troy. Troy was a very fortified city, and then what they did, they pretended to sail away. They built a big horse, and they pretended to sail away as though they had given up, and the people of Troy were very, very excited that they won, and those guys gave up and everything. Then they conquered the horse, and they took it into their fortified city, which the Greeks could not get into, and then they put it right at the center as a monument, and then in the middle of the night, there were some soldiers inside that horse, and then they came out and they killed people in Troy, and basically that's how they took over Troy. And that's what a Trojan horse does. It comes in, looks very, very polite, and then once it gets inside, then it's able to overcome things. And that's how Trojan horses work. Even in IT, we have things like Trojan horses or Trojan. So this is a Trojan horse. So as they're coming in, seeming very amicable, we are willing and all those things, they are not willing. If they are going to change anything, they plan on just changing a little bit and then later on changing it in the form of an act, which would be a quieter and much easier way. So we must fight now, and we must remove it now. And you can't write to the clerk of the Senate and just say remove the whole bill, it's immoral. You need to find things to say, which is why we've said let's educate on what to say. Okay, so just in introductions, by way of introductions, we have the preliminary, which is about the interpretation, short titles, and then of course you define things and all that. And then of course there's a lot of gaps there. And then part 2 is access to family planning. You will note that at the end of the bill, it actually says that one of the reasons why this bill is necessary is because there is a need to provide family planning for adolescents. Okay, there's a need to provide family planning for adolescents, and by adolescents they have stated very clearly that they are planning to provide family planning for children from the age of 10 and all the way to basically adolescents. And yeah, so but from the age of 10, one of the things you'll notice in the bill is that they keep saying things are confidential. For example, that an adolescent, a 10-year-old, your 10-year-old, your 10-year-old nephew, niece, you know, whoever it is, can actually go to a health center, get family planning, and they are told how to use it and all that at the age of 10. Okay, you may have seen a clip which we posted on our page, Sozo Church of God, that happened with what are they called, Citizen TV. They posted about how in Kakamega there was a situation where a health center tricked teenagers and took them to the health center telling them that they're giving them sanitary towels, but instead of giving them sanitary towels, they gave them a family planning injection. You need to know all these things have been aligned, okay? And one of the things you need to be aware of is that Satanists and people who are working with an evil satanic agenda, not all of them Satanists, but working with an evil agenda without realizing that's what they are doing, they are very proactive. And we're going to have to style up as the Church of Jesus Christ. They are very, very proactive. So they see things and they plan and they plan. And then because they've done it in other countries like US, then what they are doing is just they make sure they are doing it the same way and repeating the same thing. So access to family planning is part 2. And they're actually planning on giving family planning pills to teenagers. You had the president saying that that thing is not acceptable, but he was just giving a hint of what's there. Don't get excited when the president necessarily speaks on something or you know, the CS Health says something. Why? Because they are not part of parliament. Okay? Remember, there's a separation of power, so they are not part of parliament. So they can influence, they can disassociate themselves, and then spiritually, of course, there's that authority, but they are not part of parliament. Okay, so the person you really need to engage is your senator. Very, very critical that you engage your senator, and if possible, as a church in your area and your location, you mobilize and go to see your senator, masks and everything, but let your senator know you're not in agreement and he better vote it out. Otherwise, in 2022, he's not back. If it gets in, just let your senator know you're part of the group that has allowed abortion to come into the country. We will not give you a seat. At the end of the day, they are politicians, okay? So access to family planning is part 2, and I will get into the details of it. And then part 3 is assisted reproduction, okay? So this is where we are talking about surrogacy, we are talking about sperm banks, we're talking about a place where you can harvest a woman's eggs and put them somewhere. I'll tell you what the danger with that is. And you'll be surprised to learn that a surrogate parent, so surrogacy means another person carries the baby for you. Okay, sounds very nice, isn't it? Yeah, but the person has to be 21 years old or above. What does a 21-year-old know? Okay, so we'll tell you about the dangers of that. And then there is part 4, where they are calling it safe motherhood, but not really. Okay, and then part 5 is termination of pregnancy. And then part 6 is about confidentiality. And they're really emphasizing this confidentiality. And then part 7 is reproductive health of adolescents. It has its own entire part, okay? It has its own entire part, reproductive health of adolescents. Why do we need to discuss reproductive health of adolescents? It's not necessary. Reproductive health, according to the order of God, is not of people who are not married. Yeah, we cannot control adults who decide that they're going to be immoral, but we are not going to allow for our teenagers to be taken through reproductive health information. We don't already what's going on in biology and all those things is enough. I have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. They already know about menstrual periods and all those things. They have been taught. What they are being taught is sufficient. They don't need to be taught things like, what they're trying to introduce in things like what is called the comprehensive sexual education. Sounds very nice. But what it is I've shared it before, where they are going to teach that sometimes you can be attracted to somebody of the same gender, about masturbation is okay. You had, I think it was my MP, Millie Odhiambo, saying there's nothing wrong with, no, actually it was Pasaris. She said there's nothing wrong with masturbation. It is very normal. And she just said it very openly. There's nothing wrong with it. It's very normal. Okay. No, it is not normal. Okay. And it messes you up when you're married if you engage masturbation. And then we have, after that, we have now what is called miscellaneous. They talk about HIV, they talk about FGM and all that. And then they talk about, okay, yeah, so then we'll get into it, okay? So I'm going to end this video. This is the intro, and then I'll come back again and get into part 1. All right. I know that we want to watch NTV, so I will allow us just to focus a little bit to only just part 1, and then we will be good to go. Amen. Please tag, invite people, okay? Let's let people know